And on the Todd Herman Show, we need to ask a question, but it's one we've been asking for, well, about 8 or 9 years. As we've been looking at the business model of the Mockingbird Media, we've seen the decline in viewership. We've seen the sinking ratings of MSNBC and many of the so-called comedy shows. This isn't the first time we've asked this question. We've asked it continually. How are they getting propped up? How are they continuing to operate? Stephen Colbert's program was apparently losing $40 million a year, and it was $100 million per year to produce the show, which is effectively a dude sitting at a desk talking to people after he tells jokes. $100 million a year. And when this cancellation came about, and it's been announced that this is the last season of Colbert's program, then, of course, came what we have been told are conspiracy theories, because you don't have proof. This is a true do-nothing senator who has a whole theory about this. And he posted this proudly on Twitter, which is of course, white supremacist outfit, Senator Chris Murphy.
So I want to tell you why the cancellation of Stephen Colbert's show matters so much. We are on the precipice of entering a censorship state in which Donald Trump is using the powers of the federal government in order to erase criticism from the airwaves. This is a really, really dangerous moment. Stephen Colbert didn't get thrown off the air because he wasn't doing well. He was the highest rated show on TV in late night. He was canceled, very likely, because Paramount and its owners are trying to get rich off of this merger, and Donald Trump has made it clear to them and everybody else in the media space that if you want any favors from me, then you have to silence my critics on your platforms.
You are on X, a platform, saying that. You can go get on any platform to say that because you get to call yourself a United States Senator, although you don't do much senatoring. There have been countless calls for President Trump to be unalived by Hollywood actors on platforms. Politicians have called for him to be unalived on platforms. Karen Bass, the beleaguered and corrupt mayor of Los Angeles, has called for him to be taken out on platforms. There is no indication that this has anything to do with other than the fact that Colbert is losing $40 million per year. Brian Stelter has a platform where he gets to speak his view of this. Is he being silenced? Is he being taken off the screens? Or is Brian Stelter a brave truth teller? If you want to be a brave truth teller, understand this. The truth that's the ultimate thing to tell is the truth of Jesus Christ. And the thing that you most ultimately need to share is the revelation of Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. And there's a great series now called Testament. Testament is from Angel Studios, and it is not a soft look at the book of Acts. It takes the book of Acts and it updates it into our era, a surveillance state, a state that hates truth, a censorship state, a real one, not Chris Murphy's version of it. It's a great opportunity to ask yourself a question. Will you stand for Jesus when your back is against the wall? You can stream Testament today. Just go join the Angel Guild at angel.com/Todd. Premium members receive 2 free tickets to every Angel theatrical release. That's angel.com/Todd to stream Testament and support bold, faith-driven content. That's angel.com/Todd. So Chris Murphy says that we are living in this era of censorship, or leaning into one of government censorship. Of course, we can give him some examples, and we can, and will rather, of real censorship that was not questioned, that we know the government worked to censor people. We know they use the power of the intelligence services to censor Americans on social media. We know that Chris Murphy was fine with that because he never called it out. He was a senator then. He's a senator now. He could have called it out then, and now he didn't. We know that the ridiculous DOJ under President Trump and the part-time Attorney General, Pam Bondi, hasn't yet dismissed or got offered to pay Alex Berenson. The Berenson suit proceeds. She hasn't offered to settle this thing. Berenson was censored by the government through social media. He had his account taken down because the government and, well, frankly, a pharma executive acting on behalf of government and pharma insisted that it be taken down. And this was under the previous ownership group, Jack Dorsey's group of Twitter. So here's how Fox News reported this, a platform. Colbert's Late Show was reportedly losing CBS $40 million a year as critics speculate politics drove cancellation. Liberal critics cry foul, but CBS Late Night Show reportedly had a budget north of $100 million. We just said that on Fox News. President Trump has been criticized. On the Twitter platform, President Trump has been criticized. Tucker Carlson has done it. Elon Musk has done it. Is it getting shut down, or is that impossible? Trump has no power there? Brian Stelter of CNN fame, he weighed into this with his analysis.
A country where you can't lampoon a sitting president is not a free country. A country where you can't publish editorial cartoons or have late night monologues or have satires about the president is not a democratic country. Of course, we're not there. We're not there at all right now. There are lots and lots of figures who are famous for mocking and deriding President Trump. But the idea that Colbert might be taken off the air, that his voice might be silenced, it certainly is creating a little bit of a chill in the air today, Dana.
You seem super chilled, Brian. You're on a network that continues to insist that President Trump was not targeted by the intelligence services. The same week that Tulsi Gabbard released this data that now is what the young people would call the receipts, showing that, in fact, Susan Rice and Barack Hussein Obama and the entire cadre of those people, the intelligence services, the FBI, they all targeted a president-elect in a rolling coup attempt, and you guys at CNN have yet to really report on this. You work at a network that carried water for Biden, the figurehead, as he was clearly mentally declined, and you pretended otherwise. You worked at that network. You still do. You took a break and you came back. You got fired and rehired. Were you fired because of the people who ran Joe Biden? Or because you were ineffective? You don't have your own show, but now you're a commentator? So this is a very scary vision where you can't, let's say, be an entertainer, or let's just say this, a rodeo clown. One of the advantages of being an old guy who's worked in media a long time is you can have a memory of things because they're funny. Daniel Arkin and Aaron McClam at NBC News. The rodeo clown at the Missouri State Fair, who on Saturday wore a mask of President Barack Obama, has been permanently banned from performing at the fair ever again, according to fair officials. Why? Because he's black, and it was racism. That's why. So this guy's a rodeo clown, not a platform. And you don't remember this. Do you remember when the White House used the power of their money, of their position, and the Democratic National Committee in concert with them? This clearly came from Barack Hussein Obama. This was clearly an Alinsky tactic. Pick a target, isolate it, cut it off from its support base. This comes from, again, an NBC News article out of Washington, D.C. Dems release finalists for anti-Rush billboard slogan. The Democrat National Committee has chosen final slogans in its anti-Limbaugh billboard contest, one of which trash talk radio host Rush Limbaugh on a giant slap in the face from the DNC while posting the conservatives' hometown. The DNC sent a letter to its members last week asking for phrases of 10 words or less to splash across a billboard that would be displayed in Limbaugh's hometown of West Palm Beach, Florida, as close to Limbaugh's backyard as they can get. The 5 slogans the DNC chose are, in no particular order: America didn't vote for Rush to fail. Hope and change cannot be rushed. Failure is not an option for America's future. We can fix America, don't rush it. And Rush, say yes to America. The conservative Limbaugh said last week that he hoped Barack Obama's administration will fail and blasted Obama and his administration since the president took office in January. It didn't stop there. They took these billboards out at the same time as Media Matters for America, which is a leftist-funded group. It has big money, dark money background. They took the billboard approach and they jumped onto this and they began to call Rush Limbaugh's advertisers and they began to threaten them. They began to threaten them with mass boycotts. They created an attempt to threaten the affiliates. There was an FCC attempt to reach out to the affiliates to pressure them to take Rush off the air. They did this, or attempted to do this, to the world's most successful radio talk show host in history. There will never be another Limbaugh. Rogan and Tucker Carlson are the now Limbaughs of podcasting, but there'll never be another guy like Rush in live radio. So how did Limbaugh respond to this? Oh, he carped. He said it was government censorship. What Rush Limbaugh said was one of the most monumental moments in radio. And despite having filled in for Rush about 150 times, we never were able to find the audio of this or isolate it, although everybody remembers Rush saying it. When this effort began and they were trying to get Rush taken off the air, trying to separate him from his advertisers, Rush went to the air and he said this, roughly, paraphrasing. President Obama, I don't fear you. I've been preparing my whole life for a person like you. If I decide this gets serious enough, I have a place I can go where you can't touch me, but that's not going to happen. You are using an Alinsky tactic. Pick a target, isolate it, cut it off from its support base. But you don't understand, my support base is not my advertisers. My support base is my audience, and you cannot separate us. There's nothing you can do to affect that. I have an idea. Why don't you fly down on Air Force One? And let me take that back. I will dispatch EIB-1 to come and pick you up and fly you down because it's a nicer airplane. In fact, I'll fly up. We'll fly down together. And that way I can tell you what it's like to own your own airplane rather than having one provided for you at taxpayer expense. We can come down here and talk about all the ways I am not afraid of you. There's nothing you can take from me. I prepared my whole life for someone like you. The Alinsky tactics won't work with me because my audience is my support base, not my advertisers. Within, at most, a week, the billboards were gone. The phone calls to radio stations were gone. The threatening of advertisers was over. And they tried this again later in Rush's career, when Rush spoke about one of the most vicious, obvious setups in the history of the Mockingbird media that Brian Stelter says is being threatened with being shut down by President Trump, when they set up the Sandra Fluck hearings. If you don't know who Sandra Fluck is, she was a trust fund baby who was, as I recall, she was engaged to be married to another trust fund baby. They did a fake hearing on Capitol Hill. They pretended it was a hearing, but it wasn't because there weren't Republicans there. They did it in a hearing room, and Sandra Fluck pretended she had to choose between eating dinner and having birth control. Fact is, there's free birth control all around Washington, D.C., provided by taxpayers. She didn't need that to make that decision. But she said it, and the next day, George Stephanopoulos, or sometime that week, George Stephanopoulos asked the hapless Mitt Romney, do you agree with some of your Republican colleagues that women shouldn't have access to birth control or prophylactics? And poor hapless Mitt Romney said, George, I don't know what you're talking about. He didn't laugh in his face. It was a setup. And Rush Limbaugh called Sandra Fluck a very rude name, not one I would call a woman, and it embarrassed me that Rush did it. They tried to take him out again. And again they failed. And they tried that at the governmental level. And again it failed. This was an obvious attempt. There was also the obvious attempt to shut down Americans' free speech, just normal, everyday Americans. It's happened to me. The disappearance of my Facebook audience, the disappearance of my Twitter audience. In one day, I lost a couple 100,000 followers on Twitter. But I didn't have Jon Stewart to stand behind me, and Jon Stewart now stood behind Stephen Colbert in a brilliant bit of commentary. So brilliant.
Little bit quiet.
So funny.
Yourself. Just go yourself. Everybody.
The outrage. So Jon Stewart's response here shows, of course, that President Trump owns The Daily Show. Because as you know, Jon Stewart's program has been taken off the air. Well, no, it hasn't. The attempts to shut down free speech came from the Democrats and came from the Mockingbird media with their enthusiastic endorsement of shutting people off of social media. Colbert's program was losing too much money. CBS couldn't handle it. It's really that simple.